You're listening to From There to Here, a Star Trek Enterprise podcast. Hello, my name is Josh, and with me is
Justin.
Today we're reviewing Season 1, Episode 14, Sleeping Dogs. On IMDb, this has a rating of 7.1. Here's what it's about. Pay attention, because it's pretty detailed synopsis here. Enterprise tries to rescue a Klingon ship from sinking into a gas giant. Did you follow that?
Into a gas giant?
I can read it again if you're confused.
A giant made of gas?
Pretty close. I mean,
all right.
You got this. You got the broad strokes.
On the edge of my seat already.
I can tell.
Okay.
You can just back up. You got plenty of room there.
According to Wikipedia, this has an original air date of January 30, 2002, directed by Fred Dekker of Monster Squad fame.
I thought it was Les Landau that directed this one.
I beg your pardon. It was written by Fred Dekker and directed by Les Landau, Fred Dekker of Monster Squad fame.
That's such a bizarre connection. Like, the guy that did Monster Squad ended up working with Star Trek Enterprise. It's so weird.
And Fred Dekker was quoted as saying that Hoshi was his favorite character. He found her to be the most relatable and the most human. So whatever writing he did for Star Trek, he tried to give her character more and more things to do.
Maybe he just thought she was really cute.
Well, it could have been that. And Brandon Braga was noted as saying that he thought they did one Klingon episode too many in season 1.
And this is the one?
I don't know. I don't think he's referring to this one specifically, or if there's another one. But he felt they did one too many. So I don't know.
I don't know what other ones there are.
I don't either. I don't think there are any other Klingon episodes this season. So I think he's referring to this one.
Well, there really hasn't been many before this. There was just the pilot.
There was the pilot. I guess so. Well, that's what he said. That's what the man said. It didn't say anything more than that.
Okay. Well, I mean, this episode isn't bad by any means.
Well, let's go to it. I mean, what did you think of it?
We mentioned this during our last review of Dear Doctor, which was an A+++ episode.
Right.
That the next episode is no doubt going to be stepping down.
Yeah.
Because you can't keep it at that level. It's impossible. And when I heard the title, when we brought it up during the last pod, I was like, well, okay, I know it's not going to match up to that. It's probably going to be decent. And it was. It's a decent episode. It's pretty by the numbers. It doesn't really get creative or daring.
That's a pretty good way to say it. It was pretty by the numbers. And, you know, this was my, as we were watching it, honestly, I was a little bored with it. And
it doesn't hold up on rewatch very well.
No. And I think that's for two reasons. One,
but I wasn't bored.
I was a little bored with it.
Okay.
Because I think they committed a Star Trek sin. And that is...
Okay. Please elaborate.
I'm going to. It's the same thing they did with the Borg in Voyager. They defanged the Borg. And unfortunately, DS9 did a wonderful job of sort of refanging the Klingons because TNG had kind of taken softened them up. And was it TNG that had that line you and I quoted the other day where it said, you know, all of these alliances, whatever, are creating a generation of mewling babies. You know? Oh yeah, it was. It was
Drumhead.
That was Drumhead. Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, after DS9, although really this is really the first time we've really run into Klingons since Deep Space Nine, and Deep Space Nine did a wonderful job of keeping their culture intact while letting them be vicious and dangerous. I mean,
was it really with Worf's entrance into the show?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I mean, prior to Worf's entering the show, I don't think they had Klingons on there, but for maybe once or twice random things or something. Yeah. But that was when the Klingons came back, and they were able to ride that line of depicting them as a warrior-like sort of vicious people on a PG rating scale, you know, which is difficult to do. It's difficult because you can't show blood. You can't show them decapitate people the way they really would.
Well, they never did in the movies either. What are you talking about?
No, they didn't. But the Klingons in the movies, though,
in Star Trek 3, they got pretty pretty gruesome.
They
For Star Trek
They weren't
standards,
hacking because they didn't have batleths in Star Trek yet. They were not pleasant, and you felt threat when they were around, and that you felt that they didn't care about life. That wasn't precious to them, even their own. It just wasn't. So, unfortunately, TNG softened them. DS9 helped bring it back on a TV PG scale. But this episode, I thought you and I talked about this during the pilot. Klang was animalistic in the best way for a Klingon. He felt foreign, and everything he said was loud and big and threatening.
Well, that's because it was played by the president of the universe.
Well, that man could read the phone book and it would be threatening. Tiny Lister, ironically.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just him. It was also how the Klingons, although there weren't much of them until the very end, they were still portrayed as very hostile. And even Hoshi said, I think we should go. Whatever.
Right.
We're not welcome here. And I said to you in that, I wish more Klingons were portrayed the way Tiny Lister did, because that dude is scary and he's intimidating.
And you had said that, it was unexpected. They were unexpected.
Oh, right. That they came off way too soft.
Way too soft. That was your
yes.
comment.
Remember that episode? It was Aquiel of TNG.
That's a real winner.
Was it Aquiel? Stop. Okay. Which one is it where they find a soul Klingon and he's on a little shuttle or something, and the guy is 7 bloody feet tall, and all he says is no.
Pretty sure that's Chain of Command.
Is that Chain of Command?
Yeah.
Is it? And Worf even has to look up to this guy. He's so big.
Yeah, it's Chain of Command.
He's intimidating. He's imposing. He is clearly going.
I think he was a basketball player.
Yeah, he
in real
was.
life.
He was.
Yeah.
And he said one word repeated, no.
They gave him blood wine. He just poured it out on the carpet.
And you're like, if that dude let loose, it would be a bloodbath. Mm-hmm. And I loved that. I loved that he was a man of few words, because a Klingon would not want to chat. It's not what they do.
So you thought these Klingons were too chatty?
I thought
at least the female was.
The female, she was cute. As far as Klingons go, she was attractive. And that took away any teeth. And I thought, here they are. They set up.
She wasn't like that Klingon in, what was the episode? Where Riker goes on the Klingon ship.
Oh, yeah.
And he's getting hit on by that.
And they're just licking their lips.
You're not very attractive. He's not very attractive, but I will have him. And then Riker doesn't know that she's kidding, right?
And not only is she not kidding, she will F him up. In the best way. She will tear him up. And you believe it. Yeah. And that episode of TNG actually portrayed Klingons very well, and I liked that. But in this, there was the opportunity to do it. And the show at this point, and even Archer's trepidation of, every time we run into them, they want to kill us, Yeah,
do you want to get into the finer points of the episode?
Well, I'm already on this rant. Let me just finish it real quick.
Well, your rants tend to go on for...
Oh, shit, fine, let's go. No, go.
They tend to go on for a while, but,
No, fine. I know what I'm going to say, so I'll save it for what could be later in the episode, what I would probably change. So continue, please.
Right, fine. All right, listeners, the tension's so thick in here, you need a knife to cut it.
Oh, my God.
All right. The episode, I thought, kind of started off with a fairly weak teaser.
Yeah.
Where...
Let's go check out a gas cloud. Yay.
No, it was Hoshi. I like Hoshi. Any scene she's in is usually good. But it was Hoshi and
I can't even think about it. I was so...
Who was she? She was with Malcolm.
Oh, okay.
And they were in, I don't know where. And
right. They were doing targeting.
And they were doing target practice with one of their phasers. And it had nothing to do with the episode. And nothing, really. She was just being taught how to use it. And he was like, you have to aim, just aim straight. It doesn't have particle drift like older weapons.
No, it did. It did have a between the lines point.
About Hoshi being inexperienced.
Well, not only that, but
thematically, I guess it has.
Exactly. She said that she had never had these sort of targeting problems with the old blank gun. Yeah. And he said, well, this is the new kind, and you have to adapt and you have to adjust. And so that, I think it's the very next scene after they find there's a Klingon ship sinking into the gas cloud. that she goes to Archer and says, "Hey, can I go? Maybe you need a translator or something."
Well,
He goes,
before that,
Yeah.
I mean, before the teaser ends,
Oh, okay.
Malcolm gets beeped over the computer. Oh, we're coming across a gas giant. They're like, gas
Right.
giant. And I'm like, haven't we seen this teaser before? Where it was Civilization, that vanilla episode. Oh, no, yeah, very
vanilla.
vanilla. That's what I say, Manila.
Yeah, it's not an envelope.
vanilla episode, where a Minshara class planet. Ooh, let's go check that out.
Yeah.
A class J gas giant. Oh, that looks just like Jupiter for some odd reason.
Right.
Can't imagine any other gas giant looking like something different. I was like, okay. I was like, wow, that was kind of a boring way to start the episode off.
Right.
But that was it. I was like, okay, I'm not really excited to see what comes up next.
Yeah, it was very lackluster. So then they come back. They find that there's a ship in there. They realize it's a Klingon ship.
They don't realize it's Klingon.
Oh,
until
it's
they
not
get
till
on
they,
board.
oh, that's right. It's not till they get there.
No,
they realize there's a ship descending and being crushed.
But Hoshi wants to go.
And she wants to go because she feels like she's got her, quote, space legs.
Again, this is reminiscent of fight or was it fight or flight or flight or fight?
Fight or flight.
Which was, I think, episode 3, maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
And it was, Hoshi was our lens into this.
And she didn't want to go.
But
Here
this
she is
this
now asking to go.
This is kind of like a soft sequel to that, where she's going aboard an alien ship.
Yeah.
She was
And
very
there's
nervous
bodies laying around
in the previous episode,
Yeah,
but
same
here,
thing. Yeah. She's much more cool under pressure. Under pressure, she is adapting, just like that opening teaser shows that she has to adapt, and she's willing to do it.
well, but you know what doesn't really come back, and I thought it was going to be a plot point, and it wasn't. Was in the teaser, we're maybe a little bit after that. There's a scene in sickbay where Malcolm
Has a cold.
and I thought, oh well, that's gonna, because I know there's something about a virus.
I
was like, it's
so
going to come
too.
back later, but it
I
doesn't
thought
come back.
Him having that would have done something, but
Like
yeah,
led to some kind of cure or tied into the plot some way.
Yeah, no.
but
Like
it
halfway
didn't.
through the episode, they just dropped.
They just dropped it. Like
Yeah.
it comes up one more time, and that's when they board Malcolm, T'Pol, and Hoshi board the ship, and they open up their spacesuits because they're wearing their spacesuits. They open up the helmet when they find out it's breathable, and Hoshi and T'Pol both similarly react. Ugh, what is that smell? And he's like, I can't smell anything. It's just damn cold. What is it? Like you don't want to know.
Yeah, but after that, it's pretty much
Dropped. It's not brought up
dropped.
again.
Yeah.
So what the hell was that even for?
Even when he gets lightheaded later, T'Pol says, "Oh, you're just dehydrated." Like it didn't even have to do with
So
having
what
a cold.
was that?
I don't know. Other than just having a bit of
Do you think it was
present day
something they cut from the
relatability, maybe
episode or something?
maybe
Or maybe he was really sick, the actor, and then they're like, let's just write it in.
it could have been that simple. Is that they know they would hear it in his voice, so just write it in.
Didn't
Maybe
sound that way to me.
I don't
He
know.
sounded perfectly normal.
No, you're right. As the episode went on, you're absolutely right. It's a
Yeah.
good point. I don't know why. Anyway, so they're on the ship. Hoshi realizes some Klingon writing, tells them, "Hey, it's Klingons," and they're like, "Oh,
You know,
this isn't
before,
good."
speaking of which, when they boarded that ship, they took over a shuttlecraft to do that. Did they even try hailing this ship first? I don't recall a scene of them even trying to do that.
They must have.
Because they just go aboard. Like, they didn't even know.
They must have hailed it. I know T'Pol scanned for
They
life
scanned and they
signs.
found life signs, but I don't think they tried calling over. At least I don't remember.
They had to have.
Okay, well,
They had to.
seemed like something they forgot.
So they get there. They find
They see the Klingons.
not.
They're
I don't want to say bodies as in dead. They are alive, but they're all unconscious.
all passed out
Yeah.
over their control panels on the bridge
Yeah.
or elsewhere in the ship and engineering or whatnot. You know what I did like?
Oh, they saw the captain's log, so they knew that everyone was.
That's later.
Oh, that is.
Yeah, it's later.
My bad.
So you're getting.
Sorry.
It's difficult to keep track of the continuity of the episode because it's all taking place in this confined space.
That's true.
But what they show us when they're first exploring the ship, I don't know if because they don't show them going there, but they show the galley because that's where the woman comes from. She's hiding in the galley.
Right. She's hiding in the meat locker.
In the meat locker, well, the Klingons' version of a meat locker.
yeah.
They show the galley, and which is something that they haven't shown in any other Star Trek show. Like they've got animals like strung up and hanging, and they've been slaughtered,
Racks of targ.
right? And their food is there. You know, I'm like, okay, I like that they showed that,
Sure.
and that's probably one of the things they were smelling.
And in fact, they opened up one of those doors and they found live targs that were chained up.
Again,
that
was later.
Yeah,
later in the
just
episode,
tied together. But
when the crew goes down there, when
Yeah.
the boarding crew goes down there, and I was seeing them like inspect that door.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, I'm remembering a bad CGI effect is behind that door. When they opened it up, that's where those targs were.
Yeah, it's a couple targs, and it's obvious they're meant for slaughter, for eating.
Which is, I thought that targs were
like pets.
Were like
Like
pets,
dogs.
Well, Yar said kitty cat,
Well,
and then Worf said, yes, I guess you could call it that.
well, maybe they eat them too. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
Although the only targ, Worf even refers to like a targ as being like a pet. So I don't know why they eat them as well. I don't know.
Well, they are a different culture. They don't have
That's
the same kind of
true.
values. They don't mind eating their. If the pet has lost its honor, I guess eating it.
Some
is
cultures here
honorable
on Earth eat dogs.
death. Well, yeah.
So
Is
there you
that a stereotype? Is that an evil stereotype? Or is
I-
that?
I don't even care. So they keep this. Okay, this is something I kind of had issue with, and I knew they wouldn't do it, but I thought this would actually give this episode some life. Which is they're walking around, they see all these Klingons.
Well, I think you're being a little unfair. It had life.
Hold on, let me just.
It wasn't lifeless.
It wasn't lifeless. I just felt like it had no teeth.
I agree with you there.
It had no teeth.
Yes.
And this would have given it.
But it
teeth.
has no gramba.
No gramba. They've got all these Klingons there passed out.
Right.
And they keep saying, hey,
One of them
if these
could wake up.
Klingons wake
Right.
up, if these Klingons wake up, have them wake up. Like
Yeah.
halfway through the episode, completely unexpectedly,
Yeah.
and then deal with the consequences.
I really expected that to happen because they didn't seem to deal with the consequence of them waking up because the episode is called Sleeping Dogs, meaning it's that old phrase, let sleeping dogs lie. So just leave it alone. Don't do it because you don't want to deal with what's going to happen when you do. And basically, they don't really seem to have any consequences for aborting the ship and getting involved. So yeah, I really did expect that to happen, but I'd kind of forgotten that they didn't. So I'm like, well, why didn't they? That would have made the episode so much more exciting if they had.
It really would.
They would have been fighting these Klingons on the ship.
And I would have preferred it if the Klingon woman that was on Enterprise, if she had just been an absolute pain in the ass. And
She was a little bit, but
she was too cute for one,
she wasn't attractive,
especially for a Klingon. And she should have just been hostile, rage hostile. Make her that Klingon that Klingons always say they are, especially given that they've never really encountered humans before, so they don't know who they are, they don't know what they're about. Have her be extremely hostile and threaten to kill Archer. If you don't let me go, I will cut your throat if I get loose, whatever.
Right.
Vicious.
Should've
because
been.
here he is talking about how bad the Klingons are, how tough they are, how they always want to kill. She seems like a little pussycat. Like, he says a few nice things to her, and before you know it, they're riding in a shuttle with his back to her.
Yeah, I know. I thought that was so
come
weird.
on,
I know.
man.
I thought that was weird. That's later in the episode.
I know.
But yeah, I was like,
That's what
what
I'm
is
saying.
he thinking? And
This episode had no teeth.
yeah, it was very bizarre.
Even TNG, which
It was such a
in
logical
comparison to something like DS9
problem.
was very soft.
Yeah.
I mean, TNG had that great. It's not the greatest episode. It's not a bad episode, but Suddenly Human.
Oh, yes.
When
Jeremiah.
When Jeremiah, he is steadfastly wanting to go back to his people to the point where he stabs Picard in the chest.
That's right.
The second Picard fell asleep, knife in the chest. And that kid meant business, and he stuck to his beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
So
I thought you were about to say he howled. Remember how he howled?
yes, yeah. Oh. He's like, what is that noise?
Stop that.
Stop
Didn't he
that
try
now.
doing it to Worf, and Worf just said, stop that.
I don't know. Worf probably thought, that's a lovely sound. I love it. He's honoring his friends. But
It's like when Worf sees those creatures in what episode that was, and he says, "What a handsome race!" Like Worf always has that opposite
those
reaction.
ugly things. Yeah, he always loves the food that everyone else is like, this is
The
disgusting.
vermiculi. Or
We
something.
can't eat this. And he's like, it's lovely. Can I have more?
Well, I think we neglected to mention that the Klingon woman got on board the Enterprise because she stole their shuttlecraft because
Right.
when it was docked to the to her ship. So that's how she got over there.
Right.
What her plan was exactly, I mean, I guess she was trying to run.
She wasn't trying to get on the Enterprise. Yeah, she was just trying to book
Yeah,
it.
they said she was bolting for open space.
Yeah, and they caught her.
Yeah, and you're right. She was a little too... she did seem a little soft.
A little soft. I mean, Lursa and B'Etor, they looked tough, you know?
Yeah, and they talked tougher, too.
Yeah, and they never had anything nice to say.
You know, another missed opportunity, I thought, was where Archer and Trip, there was that funny moment. We both laughed out loud where Archer's going to go talk to the Klingon woman for the first time, and she's at this moment she's
strapped
down and she's struggling. She's like, let me out of here, human.
Yeah.
And so Archer and Trip are both standing at the doorway.
Archer starts to walk off,
and he looks back to Trip for a moment, and then Trip kind of gives him a little fist pump.
Well, he tells him first. He goes, "Hey, remember, Captain, they value strength and honesty. Don't show weakness." And then he's like, "Okay," nods, and then he looks back to Trip, and he gives him the fist up, like, "You get it,
yeah, you got it." Like, it's a fist pump, like, yeah, you got this. And it was like, it was actually funny.
It was kind of funny. And it would have been even funnier if Archer had gone in there and be like, "Hey, I'm Captain Archer. It's so nice there. Blah, blah,
hey,
blah.
Nice
Cut your throat."
ya.
And if he just turns around and went, "Wow, that didn't work.
Yeah.
I'll try again later."
So that was an interesting approach. The fact that after that interaction where she was hostile and he basically said, "Hey, we saved your life. You know, sorry for saving your life." That after that, he decided to go back to his quarters and, well, his cabin. It's very small,
right.
And read about Klingon culture. And in a later interaction he has with Trip, he learns that they need that. They might see you as weak if you're not such and such.
Right.
So I thought, oh, okay, so he's actually going to try a different approach. And so when he went back and talked to her again, she's still tied down. She's not struggling anymore. But he's still talking to her in
She's kind of giving him the silent treatment.
The same way.
Yeah.
He's talking to her in the same way, very kind of placid and almost. I was like, well,
Yeah.
what is... I thought he was going to go up to her and say... Well, and just act like a Klingon.
What would have been appropriate given that
do what Wesley did in that episode,
Yes,
Coming of Age, where he changed his temperament. Which
you
is
bumped into me. No, you bumped into me. Do you want to make this physical?
Yeah, I will do it, mister. And then
And if you think I won't, just try me.
Because I would love it. And I was like, why didn't he do that? He just acted the same way.
That's what I'm saying. They should have made her, after he had done that research, she ends up just being a quiet little pussycat when she should have been hostile, angry, blah, blah, blah. And he could have then raised his voice and been hostile back. And she could have said, "Oh, that's what you were saying?
Oh, I get it
Like,
now.
I hear you now. I get it. Now you're talking my language."
Yes.
But they didn't do that.
Well, all he did was basically tell her
In a stern voice.
They gave her a hypo spray to cure her of the ailment,
Do you
and then he
feel any
said,
better?
"Well, you got it from such and such a liquor that you obviously raided from somewhere else,
Right.
And think about it. Did you guys get sick right after that, or would you still think it was us that did this to you?" And then she's like, "Oh, well, I guess that makes sense." I'm like, "Well, he just used logic." And I was like, he didn't use aggressiveness or anything like that.
I know.
What did you read that stuff for?
I know, exactly. That's what I'm saying. This episode had no gramba.
Well, it is logic. It's a logical fallacy.
Of course it is.
Okay.
But it's also just after what he had both an actual experience with her that didn't go well, and then talked it over with Trip, and then talked it over with who in the ready room.
Trip.
All of which said they're a hostile blah blah race, so don't show weakness. And the next scene does not deliver.
Not follow through.
It does not deliver.
Is Scott Bakula just not capable of that kind of?
Sure he is, man. I've seen Sam Beckett lay into people. I know.
Yeah, but he always did it as a nice guy.
I know. But he could. He could do it. Of course he could. But they didn't set the stage for it. They didn't have her do it. Which she should have.
Yeah.
I mean, the bare minimum until he starts he should have forcibly grabbed her mouth as she's saying, "Don't talk to me, human, with your dirty lies."
He should have used some Klingon curses with her or something.
He should have physically grabbed her and held her mouth shut and said, "Listen, this is the thing," and explain it.
And then go, kapla, kapla. And she goes, Kapla.
Yeah, whatever. But something forceful.
He said Kapla in his
I know,
cabin. I was like,
that was fan wink.
well, he learned a word. He should have used it in their discussion.
It would have had no context in that discussion. It wouldn't have come up.
Well, fine. I thought it would have been nice to use. Anyway, I didn't think it was bad.
He could have said that to the Klingon captain. On the way out.
It wasn't fan wink like, one day they're going to create some kind of directive.
I know.
Yeah, not a sort of primary directive.
A first directive of some kind. Not an odd one. Not an odd number. A prime. Whatever. They'll figure it out. Someday when we're done with our Star Trekking, we'll come back and they'll have.
Well, I know this is off the beaten path, but there was one moment in the episode that I did want to highlight that it was a good moment.
Oh, I do have something too.
Where, well, see, since the Klingon woman who's never given a name.
Oh yeah, they did. It's
okay.
Like Bara or something.
Well, as you look that up, she had stolen the shuttlecraft of the boarding crew, so they're stranded. What?
It's Baka.
Baka. They're stranded aboard the Klingon ship, which is slowly sinking into the gas giant, so it's eventually going to be crushed. They're trying to figure out a way to get control of the engines to bring the ship up in altitude.
Right.
And so they're off in different areas. Malcolm is off doing something somewhere else, and then T'Pol and Hoshi are separately doing their own thing. Hoshi is showing anxiety, and she says to T'Pol, I wish I could control my emotions. I kind of envy you sometimes. And then there's this moment where it's kind of an intimate moment where she kneels next to Hoshi and says, give me your hand. And then Hoshi is a little confused, like, what?
And Hoshi puts her hand out, palm down.
And then she takes her
T'Pol
hand,
turns it
around, and then she
starts licking her palm.
Yes. And then she takes all of her clothes off, and like, whoa, I didn't expect it to go this.
She starts sucking on her fingers, and it's like, whoa, this escalated quickly.
I was like, this episode just got so much better. No,
A plus.
Basically, no, it's X. She basically kind of gives her a relaxing technique, a Vulcan relaxing technique, where I'm guessing it had something to do with like what they do during like a mind meld, because she was touching her.
Yeah, I assumed it had something to do.
Something like that. Basically, she told her to imagine an ocean and then imagine controlling the waves. Regardless, it was a nice moment in an otherwise kind of not very fantastic episode, kind of generic. But
there was some interaction that Hoshi had with T'Pol before that happened, where I felt like Hoshi was, and I gotta say, Hoshi is not my favorite on the show. It's nothing against the actress. I like the actress, and there are plenty of scenes that she does that I like her very much, but they seemed to do something. Maybe it's because she was young, so they tried to write it this way on purpose. But she's very often, what's the word? She'll break command structure. She'll talk to her senior officers in a way that is not very military. And because she's really just a linguist who was given a position on the ship. And again, perhaps that's why they wrote her that way. But I find that I don't like it because even though she's young, I don't care. She's still on a military ship.
So she's disobedient.
No, it's not disobedient. It's the same kind of, honestly, she doesn't even do it a lot in this episode, but she just did this little thing that reminded me that she does it randomly throughout. And it's what they do in modern Trek, new Trek, where she acts as if the command structure doesn't really exist. She just talks to people how she wants. And how many times has Archer come up to her station? Hoshi, do this. She'll go, oh, Captain, no. Can you get someone else? Hoshi, you're the only one who can do it. We just believe in you so much. And it's like, you were given an order to say, okay, sir, I got to tell you right off the bat, though, I think I might screw this up. But I'm going to
informal.
She's too informal.
Okay.
And I think there was a scene, and I wish I could remember, because as it happened, I thought, ooh, I'm going to hit that. it was some very tiny interaction with T'Pol where she was kind of flippant or dismissive. And I thought, well, what the hell was that? You know, like, where do you get off with that attitude?
You could remember the moment.
I wish I could.
Okay.
And it was a little one, but it was there. Just like when T'Pol says, you know, give me your hand. She kind of gives her this look like, no.
No, well, yeah.
And it's like, why would you do that? She's clearly shown herself to be...
I thought her reaction was a bit too much.
Yeah, and it was minor, but it was uncalled for. And it should have just been, oh, well, okay, sure. And when she gives into it, yes, everything's fine. But I didn't see the need for her to do that look. And whatever had happened before seemed like it was just that ever so slight bit of... Not, oh God, it wasn't like I don't trust you or something like that. It was just something flippant. And it's like, who are you talking to? This is a senior officer.
Yeah.
Stop with the lip, you know?
Well, I think it is. I agree with you about those moments, but I think it is in line with Hoshi's character, and that she is kind of like that young person that hasn't quite learned to not suppress her emotions, but to...
I wouldn't mind her doing it if she was called out
control
on
them,
it. But she's never called out on it. She's babied through it.
Yeah,
Too much.
I guess not.
I mean, how many times is she going to go, oh no, Captain, I just can't do that. Excuse me, what? Maybe relieve yourself of duty and I'll find someone that'll just do it when I ask you to do it.
Right.
I'm tired of it already.
Right.
You know, so I know this continues. It's an attitude that she has.
I guess I don't remember
It's
this
almost
attitude
like
as much as you do.
It's almost like a millennial type attitude. There's like just a little bit of entitlement to her.
Okay.
Where, but I don't want to do that. It's going to make me uncomfortable. No. You know, and she's got that kind of attitude about her. I'm not saying it's plastered all over her face.
Is it like a me attitude?
Kind of, yeah. It's a millennial attitude.
Well,
and I see it and I smell it coming off.
You think millennials are bad with that?
Jeez, the Gen Zs would have just passed that ship. Those Klingons are screwed. Whatever, let's move on.
Right.
It's just a thing. It's just a thing that I found kind of annoying.
Yeah.
And it minor, but it stuck with me because it's not the first time and it will not be the last. But I cannot believe, I didn't even think until you said it, that the whole Malcolm Cold thing is totally dropped.
Yeah,
I can't believe as we watched it, I can't believe I didn't notice that it had totally been dropped. It had no payoff whatsoever.
It felt like such like a Murder, She Wrote plot
I thought
thread. You know what I mean?
As soon as they boarded the ship, and because I had forgotten, I knew they found the girl, but I didn't remember the status of the ship, like were there Klingons on it. I didn't remember. So when T'Pol said, "Oh, there's a virus on the ship," you know, it's knocked all them out. I thought, oh, the girls are going to get hit with the virus and slowly start getting sick, but he's not going to be because he's got this virus. I thought for sure that's what was going to happen.
Right. But it
didn't happen at all.
Nope.
And he was the only one to have some sort of physical reaction to the environment. It was hot, and she said he was dehydrated, but nothing having to do with the cold. Again, why not? You know, if you're gonna play it up. Which you mentioned again. It's like they had an opportunity to add some teeth to the episode. The whole threat is that they're on this ship, which is falling deeper and deeper and getting crushed because of the pressure. And it's not until, I don't know, the last act where the ship actually starts to, you see it from the outside, the metal starting to crunch in and on itself. And I thought they should have, the second they boarded that ship, you should have heard
creaking sound.
You should have heard that the whole episode. And it should have been getting louder and louder and more of it to raise that tension. But there's not even a feeling of threat of that until the last act, and it's like, come on, people!
It did feel.
Give me something.
Yeah, I agree. I thought of that maybe subconsciously. I was kind of like when they were on that ship and they kept speaking about the fact that it's sinking deeper and deeper. But I was like, it seems pretty serene inside.
Yeah,
I was like, but
as they're talking in conversation, you know, pipes should be bursting, and they have to
like
go
they're in a
this.
submarine.
Yes,
right.
Exactly. Yeah. It should have felt like that.
Yeah. But
it 100% didn't. It felt like a leisurely drift down until it finally
drift down into oblivion
until it finally started breaking up.
Yes,
you know, and by then it was too late. There was no tension.
You're right. Well, I probably should get to the end of this episode.
Sure.
So basically, after that conversation that Archer has with the Klingon woman, I already forgot her name. Doesn't really matter. She, he's able to talk her into the fact that if they work together, he can help her get her ship out. And which brings up the fact that we just mentioned earlier, which was they get aboard their shuttle pod, and Archer's sitting in the pilot seat, and in the shot she's sitting behind him, and he's completely defenseless against her.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's weird. Like I expected her to get up and try to choke him or something,
Nope.
stab him.
Nope, she's just hanging out.
And then when they get on board, she's walking behind him. I'm like, you don't want to turn your back on this woman. She was going to kill you earlier. What are you thinking? It was so weird.
She gave no threat whatsoever. So no, of course, why would he be worried about
so
that?
Bizarre. You think he would have kept? Because when I saw her sitting in that chair behind him in the cockpit, I thought that she was handcuffed to the chair.
Right.
Like she was strapped down, but it was actually part of her wardrobe. It's like her sleeves were silver. I thought, they have her anchored to the chair so she can't get up. I'm like, oh wait, that's just her shirt. I was like, okay, what is he thinking? She's not even handcuffed to the thing.
I
was
know,
like,
it was a lot.
It was
of
so
missed
bizarre. She's
opportunities.
technically a prisoner, man. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
It's like, don't trust her, man. Do not trust that woman. But I was like, I guess they just couldn't write that into the episode too hard. Like somebody couldn't go to the prop store and get handcuffs, I guess. They didn't have time to make them look like
I understand that he
futuristic.
wanted to show her trust, so he didn't have her
That doesn't mean
up.
let her sit behind you.
No, absolutely not.
That's
That's
just
what I'm
begging
saying.
to have your throat cut.
I know, exactly.
So they get on board, and this is like the culmination of all this was so lackluster, this climax. They basically just get on board the ship, and then she says, I'll take care of it. And then they cut to everyone's back on board the Enterprise, and I'm like,
and then the Klingon captain
that's it, they're safe?
wakes up and sends a message like, "Rah, rah, I will kill you now." And Archer
It's like,
goes,
prepare to surrender.
I can seriously kill you with one shot.
He's like, come on, we just saved your life, and we could blow you up easily. Just
and then that's
cut your losses and
insult
run.
to injury. He's like, okay, and he hangs up all mad,
like
but
a
it's
whining child.
yeah, and it's like, no, if you're gonna do it, do it. Have him like fire a shot,
But didn't
and
you
have Archer go, is he
Didn't
out
you
of his
expect
mind?
because we were just talking about how there was no tension.
None.
Like when they went on that ship, when he brought the Klingon woman back to the ship, I expected them to be like racing to try to save the ship. Like, okay, go press the fusion initiator. Hurry, do this before the such and such. And music would be playing, and then they barely get it out in the nick of time. No, that didn't happen. They just
kinda
cut back
hanging
to the
out.
ship, and everything's safe. I'm like, what the hell, man?
know.
I was
I'm
like,
telling you.
What was this for? I was like,
Very disappointing.
but it wasn't bad.
No, it wasn't.
know, I'm
technically on paper.
Really coming down on
it's
this episode
fine.
pretty hard.
Well, that's because the whole episode was clearly supposed to be one of tension,
But it just wasn't.
of which there was none. There was two
But a few little
elements
tricks
of
of
tension.
editing and
Yes,
sound effects could have changed that.
partly, and then a little bit of writing of just
Maybe a
make
little.
her aggressive
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
Even when he takes her back to the ship, aggressive.
Right.
Like, hands off of me, blah, blah. Now get off my ship before I slit your throat. Okay.
That would've been
fine.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something, anything. Anything. If
I
you're
guess
not off
and
of my
Archer could
ship.
have said, I guess that's how Klingons say thank you.
Yeah, if you're not off of my ship by the time I reach the bridge, I'm going to space this whole part of the ship.
Yeah.
Like even at that point, she's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And don't even have the Klingon captain wake up. Mm-hmm. Just leave on that note.
Yeah.
And
Did not need that part.
No,
No.
it was insult to injury because it all just proved that there was no teeth to this episode whatsoever.
Well, after they get on board, that's not the last scene. It's actually a decon scene.
Yes.
Which we had not seen, I guess, since the pilot.
At least this wasn't overtly gratuitous.
But, I failed to mention this earlier, but the decon scene is, it's there for sex appeal. But they did this earlier where eventually on the Klingon ship, when they arrived in their spacesuits, and those things are bulky. They cut back and they're in their undergarments of the spacesuits. And it really took me out of the moment because those undergarments are clearly like custom designed, to fit the body of the actor.
Yeah.
When in reality they never would be.
And T'Pol stands up and she's got these underwears that are like showing just a bit of her butt cheek. Just
wait, that's
a
the
little.
decon scene.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
Oh,
about.
I was talking about their underneath their suits.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm
which is
talking about
kind of
the
like a
decon.
gray jumpsuit,
Right.
Which is clearly designed to fit the body of that
Yes,
actor.
I know what you mean.
And I'm
Yes.
like, well, okay. I was like, even Malcolm liked to show his guns. It's like, come on, guys. Do you have to do that? Is that necessary?
No,
really?
it's not.
But yeah, the decon scene, yeah.
At least they're not lubing each other up.
At least
they're just sitting there.
At least they weren't doing that.
And basking in it.
But I was like, is it supposed to be a sauna? Like that's the way they're
treating
That's the way they're acting.
Which I was actually okay with. I would have been fine if T'Pol hadn't gotten up. And then she's wearing these super short shorts, and it's like, come on. Yeah. A Vulcan who are modest people would not.
Yeah.
She would wear underwear that fits appropriately.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I love looking at Jolene Blaylock. I have no problem with that.
But when it's that gratuitous, it takes
me out of the scene because it's all I'm looking at. And when she's standing up, all I'm looking at is her midsection because she's just such a perfectly formed human.
Right.
And it's all I see. But if they had all just stayed sitting there, fine. Mm-hmm. And it's they're playing like it's a sauna and they're enjoying it. It's fine. Mm-hmm. Fine. But no, they had to have her get up. And that's why they had her get up, because they wanted to give a little bit of butt flash there.
Don't you? I mean, wouldn't you, as the maker of that show, wouldn't you feel sleazy? Yeah, I would.
Yeah,
man.
Honestly, and they should. And it's unnecessary. It's really unnecessary.
I mean, I could understand if you were making a skin flick.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's what it is. But Star Trek isn't supposed to be that.
No.
That being said,
and she's a knockout just sitting there in that little outfit.
Well,
I mean, come on.
Yeah, and whatever she wears, she looks good.
Yeah.
So, but like, you know, that being said,
she wears like a white outfit later in the series.
Oh yeah, she looks
like a Wilma
man.
Deering outfit,
Buck Rogers,
and it's like, you found it.
You should have worn that from the start.
From day one, that should have been it. Yes. I mean, it's a cat suit like anything else she wore, but that white, perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, the original series did it too. You know, the women wore short skirts.
Oh, sure.
And it was there for that reason.
Absolutely.
I guess it's because it didn't seem so
but at least
overt.
Yeah.
You know, they weren't lubing each other up. They weren't glistening with sweat, you know, that kind of thing.
I don't think we would think so harshly about this decon scene at all if the first one didn't have them lubing each other up the way they did.
We don't really see the decon stuff after the first season.
It does start to peter out and go away.
I think they realized that, okay, we're getting mocked for this. We got to stop doing this.
Yeah, because that's all people talked about. And even the Star Trek fans felt like they were being pandered to. And they were a little annoyed.
Well, you know,
they felt like their intelligence was being insulted.
It is like
it is.
It's like when you want to see naked ladies, you know where to go. You don't watch Star Trek for that.
No, you watch Return of the Jedi in the Slave Leia outfit. That's what you watch.
Yeah,
you don't go to Star Trek.
Yeah, you watch Roseanne in The View.
It's the view. Doodly-doo.
There's a callback from a skit that nobody's seen in 20 years, but okay. I guess that's the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything?
No, I think we pretty much got it.
You know, I thought going into this, I was going to give it a B-, but after we've talked it out and really pinpointed a lot of mistakes and things they missed, I'm gonna have to give it a C+.
I'm gonna give it a C, not a C+, C-, just a C.
I thought it was entertaining enough. I guess that's what the plus is for.
It gets knocked down by egregiously not taking advantage of its own plot. You know, its own setup. It doesn't use. So
I mean, I think
that's a sin.
I think Civilization we both gave a C to. Maybe even less, I don't know, but it was definitely better than that. This
just pissed me off because it had all the opportunity. Everything was there. Like all you had, like you said, you could have just had sound effects.
It had a few standout moments.
A couple moments.
Civilization didn't have any of that. It was just all kind of dull.
It was all brown.
I mean, we had the Hoshi and T'Pol moment. We had the fist pump moment. Like there was some good stuff in there.
And honestly, those are the moments.
Malcolm said some funny things. He was funny when he had his cold.
Sure, but it's those missed opportunities that really knock it down, because that's all I saw when watching it was, oh, well, that's not okay. Fine, you know. It's a shame. It's not like they swung and missed. They didn't even swing. That was the thing. They were just hoping that the pitcher would walk them. Is that what you're saying? I don't know. Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Like, oh, we got Klingons. You're gonna love that. But then they didn't have them be Klingon. Mm-hmm. You know.
So unfortunately, kind of a bigger step down than I thought it was going to be. I thought this was going to be probably more in a B+ range of an episode. At least I thought I enjoyed it much more. But right. I guess it doesn't hold up as well as I thought it would.
Like you said, it's not like it's technically bad.
No, it's not. It's like Civilization wasn't bad.
No, that one was just so slow.
Right.
This one wasn't slow exactly. It's just you're like, oh, you're gonna do. Oh no, you didn't. Oh, you're gonna do. No,
I
no,
noticed.
you
I'd be interested to hear what listeners might think of Civilization, because I noticed that one has got a fair amount of listens compared to other ones.
Is that right?
Yes, and
Of all episodes.
I'm surprised that one has gotten as much interest as it has, considering that we didn't like it so much, and maybe it's not a universal feeling that we have. So we'd like to hear from you guys.
I'll bet the Ferengi episode and Shuttlepod 1 will definitely get some.
What's the Ferengi episode?
What's that called?
Well, what's it about? Is my question.
The crew is, I don't know, they're knocked out or something, and then there's Ferengi on the ship. The Ferengi find it, and what happened? Acquisition. That's the name of the episode.
Is it in the first season?
Yeah, it's episode 19. We have a few.
Well, what do we have coming up next, Justin?
Next is Shadows of Pajem.
Okay.
Then Shuttlepod 1.
I don't remember anything about Shadows of Pajem, so
Yeah, I really
that's
don't
good.
either.
That's good. I mean, maybe that's a bad sign. Whenever I seem to not remember,
Yeah, that doesn't bode well.
It does not bode well.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like no matter,
I'm worried
that
now.
Ferengi episode's either good or bad, but we remember that it existed.
Man, because they were on a hot streak. We had, what did we have before Dear Doctor?
Dear Doctor, it was Silent Enemy.
And before that,
Cold Front.
Cold Front. So we had 3 strong episodes. The third one ending in an A+, man. And so now I guess they just couldn't keep it up. Couldn't keep the streak up.
Yeah.
Can't last forever.
No.
Oh, well.
So we'll see what Shadows of Pajem brings us.
Well, any comments or
I
criticisms
think I've made myself
or hate
clear.
comments, please email us at podcastnx01@gmail.com.
Thought you were talking to me.
Well, to you and to you could.
I'll email you.
You can email me your hate comments to me,
Sure, why not?
or you can just tell me right now what you don't like about me. All right, I'll see you in the next one.
Bye.